Hey, what's up guys? I'm Justin with AmericanMuscle.com, and this is my detailed overview of the BBK ceramic 1 5/8 inch long tube headers available for your manual 99-04 Cobra and Mach 1. Alright guys, this overview is going to cover a lot of ground. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what you can expect as far as benefits and power expectations, what you're going to be looking at as far as materials and construction, and then finally what it takes to get these things installed. And honestly guys, this one is going to be a bear, so expect a full 3 out of 3 wrenches on my difficulty scale, and I will have a little bit more detail coming up on that later on. Alright guys, the BBK ceramic long tube headers should appeal to just about anyone out there looking to add one of the bolt-on essentials for their manual 4-valve powered Mustang, freeing up some power in the process, but you don't want to spend a ton of dough on one of your more premium options. Now this is going to be a great choice for anyone looking for a 1 5/8 inch diameter primary here, which will support upwards of 700 horsepower. Now if your goals have you exceeding that power level, then I suggest looking into a 1 3/4 inch version header instead. But with that said, let's break down this header a little further. Now BBK is a name most Mustang owners should be very familiar with because they've made the Mustang their #1 priority and have done so since they've opened up their doors back in the 80s. Now they still continue to churn out a ton of cool quality parts for the Mustang, all of which are made here in the USA and all of which are relatively affordable in the world of the aftermarket. And with that said, these long tubes are a perfect example of what BBK does day in and day out. They appear to be built great at first glance, customers are reporting great gains along with a solid fitment, and the price is going to be one of the most affordable here on the site. Of course, one of the biggest reasons Mustang owners switch out their restrictive factory manifolds in favor of a set of long tubes like these from BBK is to free up some power otherwise restricted by those cast iron factory manifolds, in addition to getting some awesome tone in the process. And of course, more power is the obvious expectation here, right guys? And BBK claims upwards of 14 to 22 horsepower at the wheels using these long tube headers depending on your setup and of course your tune, and I really have no reason to disagree with that. I will say that Cobra guys or maybe even blower cars will see slightly bigger gains depending on your setup, but you might even see that boost number drop a little bit here, and that's a result of the headers increasing your efficiency. Not much, we're talking maybe 1 or 2 pounds at the very most, but it is worth mentioning, and it is worth mentioning also that you might see similar or more power given less boost. And on the topic of a tune guys, I do want to quickly point out that running a custom tune with these BBK long tube headers is not required, however it is strongly recommended. After all, you're making some pretty serious changes here to your exhaust system, and it's only going to maximize your gains. Alright, so we know the power expectation or the power gains will be there, as a lot of our customers have pointed out, but what about your change in tone? Well, again, a lot of our customers have pointed out in the same review section, check it out on the product page if you haven't done so already, just an awesome change to the exhaust note. In fact, a lot of the 4-valve guys say the car is more aggressive sounding, obviously louder, and the exhaust overall sounds a little throatier, so that's a nice thing to expect when installing a set of long tubes like this. So with the basic power and sound expectations out of the way, let's talk about the construction you're going to run into here when checking out the BBK long tube options. And as you start to dissect these things a little bit more or start to look a little deeper, you're able to tell how they're able to keep the price down. BBK long tube headers here are going to utilize a mild steel tubing, and basically mild steel for the entire construction of the long tubes, as opposed to the more premium materials like 304 grade stainless for instance, and that's going to be the #1 biggest factor in helping keep the cost down with this particular option. Now check out the Cook's options for, on the other hand, they're going to cost you nearly double the cost of the BBK headers here, but they will utilize that more premium 304 grade stainless. From a sheer performance standpoint, the mild steel and the stainless steel header will perform basically identical. They're going to be just about the same in every way. However, the biggest difference is going to come down to the ability to reduce corrosion, and in that regard, the 304 grade stainless is the clear winner. However, guys, that's where the ceramic coating comes in. BBK uses their polished silver ceramic coating on a lot of their headers, and honestly guys, that's a good thing because it's going to serve a few different purposes. First and foremost, it's a very durable coating that will help prevent or reduce that corrosion we talked about a little earlier that can sometimes be problematic with a non-stainless header. And secondly, that ceramic coating is going to have some functionality along with it as well. It's going to help reduce some underhood temps, which is huge, especially for you Cobra guys out there with those positive displacement blowers that can sometimes produce a lot of heat. Finally guys, and this obviously isn't as important of course here, but that ceramic coating is just going to be easy on the eyes and just really nice to look at. Now granted, you won't see these things too much when they're installed, but nevertheless it is worth pointing out that bright silver is going to remain silver over the years, as opposed to discoloring like a stainless or chrome header might. Going even further with the construction, again, you're gonna find the 1 5/8 inch primaries here, ending in the 2.5 inch collector. BBK does utilize laser cut one-piece OE style flanges on the head side, and the welds overall are pretty solid for an entry-level header. Rounding out the package, BBK does also include brand new gaskets and hardware to help you with the install. Now, I do want to quickly go back and talk about that 1 5/8 inch runner here used with the BBK headers. I think you'll find it's probably the most popular size for the 99 to 04 4-valve cars, and for a good reason. It's enough header for 90% of you guys out there, making upwards of 700 wheel. However, if you're the 10% that plans on making more with a big blower Cobra or Mach 1, then might I suggest checking out a 1 3/4 inch header instead. Personally, I think the 1 5/8 will be a restriction at that power level. Cooks does make a set of 1 3/4 inch long tube headers, which you can find here on the site. Another big thing to keep in mind when making the switch to a set of long tubes like this, guys, is that you have to address your mid pipe, as the factory length stuff will no longer work. Now, this is one of those cases where I strongly recommend sticking with the same manufacturer for your mid pipe, as is the case with the long tubes. So in this case, stick with the BBK mid pipe, because ultimately it's just going to give you the best results as far as fitment is concerned. Now, luckily for you guys, BBK offers a ton of options in regards to mid pipe. You're looking at catted and off-road versions of their X or H pipe. So again, you have a lot of options here. Obviously, the mid pipe will add to your final price here when looking at long tube headers, but it's pretty much a necessary modification no matter what brand you end up deciding to go with. So figure you're looking at an extra $200 to $400 for that mid pipe. The catted stuff is usually a little bit more pricey than the off-road stuff. So put that together with the BBK long tubes, which are gonna land right around $600. You're still looking at one of the most affordable packages when it comes to long tubes here on the site. All right, guys, let's switch gears and talk about the install, because I'm sure it's something a lot of you are concerned about, and for a good reason. And honestly, the short and not so sweet way to put this is it's going to suck. Long tube installs are generally one of those long and tedious jobs that will require a good amount of tools and at least a full day in the shop or garage to get knocked out. So expect a full pull 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty scale here. As you might expect, this one is definitely going to test your toolbox and your tool selection, guys. I'm talking a number of sockets, extensions, wrenches, open-ended wrenches, pry bars, pole jacks, jack stands, jacks, basically all the tools. Now, BBK, God bless them, they include some instructions here with these long tube headers, but they leave a lot to be desired, and they actually have the nerve to call this a 2-hour install. So do yourself a favor, throw those things in the trash and check out the very detailed install instructions on the product page here at AM, because it'll definitely be very helpful in walking you through the install if you plan on doing this one yourself. Ultimately, guys, you're gonna be looking at dropping that front K-member to gain access to the motor, removing those motor mounts and the steering shaft. Basically a very tedious, a very long job, and it's gonna bust some knuckles. So if this is something you don't feel totally confident with, leave this one up to your local shop. All right, guys, the BBK ceramic long tube headers are gonna be a great choice for any manual 4-valve owner out there, and here's why. The overall construction and fitment are going to be very solid. The power and sound expectations are obvious here, and the best part is these things aren't going to totally blow apart your budget. So that's my review of the BBK ceramic long tube headers, which you can find right here at AmericanMuscle.com.